the life that I've built is probably a life that I wasn't actually supposed to have. In this video, I'm going to give you a bit of a blueprint, maybe a step-by-step guide to figure out how you're going to get from where you currently are right now, feeling stuck, run down, depressed, just pulled down in life. And I'm going to explain to you how one simple thing, one simple process can help you unlock an unlimited level of potential that's going to change the rest of your life. And I'm not talking from any kind of woo-woo textbook, or I'm talking from real life experience. So to do this, I need to give you a little bit of a backstory first. So let's start there. That story is my story. And I want to be able to just give you a bit of a preface on what's happened prior to me going through a mental health breakdown that completely changed my life. And I've been thinking for a long time now whether I was to actually put this story out. And I've spoken about this story multiple times on BBC Radio, on podcasts, even on short form social media platforms for a very long time. But for me, bringing this to YouTube and kind of starting from the beginning with regards to why I want to put this out there is short form platforms don't deliver the depth that's needed these days. And people that struggle in the same way that I was struggling need a bit more depth. They need a bit more understanding. They need to know how to get from where they currently are and to see what could be a potential future that they're going to work towards. But you can't do that by 7 seconds of information. And that's why I want to be able to change the way that I'm bringing this information so that you get to unlock what's ahead for you in your future. My future was probably one that I'm not supposed to be living right now. So the preface on all of this is I was in the motor industry for numerous years. I'd run myself into the ground. I was working 18 hours a day, 7 days a week. I was in a very, very volatile relationship, probably one that I should have never have been in the first place. And this went on for 9 or 10 years. And it drove me to the point where I lost my identity. I lost just my ability to be able to know me as a person. And I was doing everything for everybody else. I was saying yes to people that I probably shouldn't have ever said yes to. I was getting myself into situations that I had no guidance around because there was nobody there to help me or give me feedback from their experiences. I was having to learn the hard way, some very expensive lessons, some very stressful lessons. And this ultimately ended my knowing of myself. I didn't know who I was anymore. I was 25-year-old and I was like, what the hell is going on with my life? Like, I couldn't figure out whether I was doing right, whether I was doing wrong, whether I was being successful. I was literally living in this momentum of confusion, frustration, anger, fear. And all of this was a compounding. Every single time I kept saying to myself, I just need to keep going. I just need to keep going. I got to the point where I completely lost myself. At the age of around about 28 years old, I went through a very unfortunate 2011, and a lot of things happened in a very short space of time. The business I built for over 10 years, literally overnight, got unwillingly dissolved. The other side of that was the relationship that I'd been in that was mentally abusive. It was a very volatile situation. It was two people that should have never have been together for whatever reasons. That shouldn't have ever got to the point that it got to. And that relationship broke down literally in the space of 2 weeks of the business ending as well. So everything kind of end of 2011 in November, everything disintegrated. And at that point, when you spent 10, 12 years of your life building something and you don't know what to do with yourself, that's when I spent 2 months driving around in my car from city to city because I didn't know what to do, where to go, who to ask for help. And I didn't want to face the thing that had been created. I didn't want to face the consequences of what I was currently going through because lack of guidance, maybe I didn't have enough. Maybe it was the fact that I'd never grown up with somebody to help me, support me. I never had that supporting background from friends or family. It was every single thing that I had to do, I had to say that I was going to do it, try and go and do it, figure it out. And if it broke or it didn't work out, which clearly was the case a lot of the time, I was the one that then was paying the consequences of what was going on, and I didn't know how to fix any of that. So at 28 years old, I went through a mental health breakdown. I showed up at my mum's front door after an argument with her when I was in a different city, and it's not something that I ever do. And that front door opened, and that was the beginning of the mental health breakdown kind of really taking root and kicking in. I was in a very depressed state by this point, but I was just more so confused, angry, and frustrated at what had happened in 10, 12 years of me putting energy and effort into things, and it just literally disintegrating in this very short space of time with very little control of my own. It was at the will and kind of dispense of everybody else that was involved in this. and I couldn't figure out what I was supposed to do. So there was a knock on the door opened, and at that point, I broke down. I literally broke down, hit the ground on my knees, in floods of tears, saying sorry, and I didn't know what to do. And it was at that point, my mum said, come in, let's get you sorted, let's get you some proper rest for a few days, and we'll take it from there. And that's kind of where this starts. So the mental health breakdown kind of goes over a 2-year period from the age of 28 through to the age of 30. And this might be relevant to somebody that's listening right now, and it might be relevant to somebody that has been through something that is maybe a little bit older, but you never resolved the things that held you back, and it's built the future that you're currently living right now. So from the age of 28 through to 30, there are some significant things that happened. My mental health deteriorated vastly. And I'm talking to the point where I was watched by a crisis team, and there are going to be some trigger warnings in this. So I'm going to preface this now. I'm just going to let you know that you probably need to hear this, but I'm saying it from every which way of support and love that I physically can. What I went through, I wouldn't wish upon my worst enemy. I was watched by a crisis team. I was very heavily sedated on medication. I was having bouts of agoraphobia. I was confined to a room for around about 6 to 7 months because I was fearful of leaving the room. Every time I did, hyperventilation, I'd black out, I'd be pulled back into the bedroom, put back into bed. It'd take me 3 or 4 days to recover. This was an ongoing thing. So anxiety kicked in and mood and personality disorder kicked in, depression. I was treated for and tested for schizophrenia, bipolar. I was considered to be sectioned at one point. And this all kind of built up to 2 attempts. And those 2 attempts was when a GP came out to see me. I don't want to go too much into the uprooting of all of the frustrations. Let's just say there is a huge shopping list of mental health conditions that I manage on a day-to-day basis now that are from the back end of going through what I went through, but I've got very, very good at making them a superpower, let's say. They now fuel me every single day to build the life that I'm currently living. But it was one statistic that this GP said to me that really got me thinking. I was probably 3 or 4 days lack of sleep at this point, again still with agoraphobia. Social anxiety had kicked in as well, so people coming around to the house. I was basically in a room and it was do not disturb. And he came in and he sat on the end of the bed, and I remember him saying to me, if you don't change what you're currently doing, your son is 75% more likely to take his life if a parent takes theirs. And 15 years later, that statistic sticks with me. 15 years later of me doing all of the work that I've done, all of the support that I've given other people, it's still the thing that makes me realize how important all this really is. I made a choice in that moment, which was 2 weeks before my 30th birthday. I didn't want there to be a 0.01% chance of my actions impacting his life. He was around 3-4 years old at this point in time. And I'd also been stopped seeing contact with him as well. So I was battling bankruptcy, court, divorce, you name it. There was a shopping list of mental health things going on. There was a shopping things of life things going on. And there was just too much for me to be able to try and work all this out. And my mental health had got so bad that the 2 attempts had also led me to have communication issues. My speech pattern was starting to break down, my writing ability to be able to stop being broken down. And you'll still hear every now and again when I'm talking, my mind races at 1,000,000 miles an hour, which in the past 15 years is probably more the fact that I found out that I'm ADHD as well, so that's fine. But it's more the fact that I've had to reteach myself how to do a lot of things over a very short space of time. The communication side, which is huge to me now. Communication is the reason why I'm doing this, because somebody out there, if it's one person that hears this, watches this, sees this, and it helps you figure out where you currently are and just understand and unlock what's going to happen in the near future, you can change your life by just implementing this story. This story is the key that's going to give you everything back. Trust me when I say this. This is something that I've used with every single client that I've worked with over the 15 years that I've done this. Thousands of people I've actually helped and support move from a place of struggle into a place of thriving. And this one story is going to help you do the same. So this is what happens when you start to take action. At that point, when that statistic came in at 75% chance of my son, it's impacting his life, we're not going to do that. So this is what happened. So the first thing that I said that I was going to do, and this started with a conversation with myself in the mirror 2 weeks before my 30th birthday. I managed to pull myself out of the bedroom with agoraphobia into a bathroom that was 1.52 meters away from the bedroom door that I was able to get to. I was hyperventilating. I was on the borderline of blacking out again. I was dry heaving because that's just something that started to happen from the hyperventilation. And I remember looking myself dead in the mirror, eye to eye. And I said to myself at this point, you were not put on this planet to go through this, to not do something with it. This is not your purpose. So why are you allowing this to happen? And there was something in that moment that clicked. There was something in that that said to me that what I'm currently going through is it's a process for me to be able to give back to people that are going through something that don't know how to work this out. I was fortunate that I already had a health background growing up in my late teens, early 20s. I'd gone through sports science qualifications, so I knew exactly what it was that I need to do in the sense of health. But health had always been something that had been a hobby for me anyway. So that was kind of installed already. But it wasn't something that I paid attention to for a good 5 or 6 years due to working myself to the bone, 18 hours a day, 7 days a week. It was just relentless torture. So I'd not looked after myself for a long time. And by this point, in the whole mental health breakdown period of 2 years, I'd now accumulated medication that was probably the size of a carrier bag, a shopping bag. And I was on this every single month. So it had numbed the way that I was thinking. It had numbed my existence. I didn't really know whether I was here or not. It was just everything was numb. And in that 2 weeks, I decided between the point of having the conversation in the mirror with myself and saying that I'm not accepting that this is the life that I'm going to live, because not only did he tell me, the GP, that it was a 75% chance of my son being impacted, he also told me that this was going to be a lifelong, at the time he said disability, that I was going to have to manage. And I refused for that to be the outcome of my future, knowing that I'm capable of so much more. And even still in those moments that I knew that I could take all of this away from me in just one blink of an eye, and I tried twice, I knew that at that turning point, I wasn't going to allow that to be the future that I was going to live. So 2 weeks, I said, I'm turning 30. At 30, we start doing something about this. So in that 2-week period, I made certain people aware around me that I was going to be attempting to try and help myself get back on track. So I made decisions about medication, and I made decisions about coming off the medication, and obviously always speak to a GP and professional about doing this. At that point in time, I didn't. I went cold turkey because I was more adamant in my own actions that I would be the thing. I wanted to know myself, and the reason why I did this, and I don't recommend anybody else do this, I was so adamant that my will and my purpose to get past all of this was going to be the thing that helped me in the hard times. And I wanted to know what my actual efforts were. I didn't want to feel like the medication was the thing that was making me feel a bit better, or the situation that I was in was dulling me down a little bit. I wanted to feel what was going on so I could be my own sense of judge, my own character, and go, right, okay, I need to figure this out, and I need to understand why I feel this way and what it is that's happening. And I asked that question a lot in that 2-week period. Why? Why am I having the panic attacks? Why am I having the mood and personality disorders? Why am I being tested for schizophrenia? Why was I being questioned for being sectioned? And I started to understand that why was the biggest thing, and starting to peel the layers back on things that I could understand at that point in time. And it got to the point where my 30th birthday came around, and I said, right, now we start to try. And I needed a significant milestone in life to say that this was going to be the turning point for me. I wasn't going to look back. I needed to be able to draw a line in the sand at that point and say, the future is now, and the past is the line has been drawn, and I'm not bringing that forwards anymore. So what I started to do was, and this is the process, this is actually the thing that's going to help you move step by step. I took a literal step every single day. That step was out of the bedroom door. I'd have hyperventilation, I'd possibly black out, I'd be taken back to the bedroom. But the secret to all of this is the recovery part that most people skip. Most people expect when they put effort into something, there's a reward on the other side of it. You're asking for the reward to come straight from the effort that you've just put in. It doesn't work like that in these cases. What you're missing is the recovery window, and that's the most important part of this. Every day was a step to the top of the landing. I'd get to the point where I'd need to get taken back to the bedroom. I'd recover for 2 or 3 days, and then we tried again. And this happened through every single 13 steps going down those stairs to the hallway. When I got to the hallway, the agoraphobia kicked in so hard that hallway looked like it was extending constantly, just moving and moving and moving further and further away from me, to the point where it feels like you're in this everlasting tunnel. And the front door just felt like it kept moving further and further away. And all of a sudden you're like, Why? Why do I feel like this? Again, asking the question why. And it's because every step was something uncomfortable. Every step was another step further forwards. And I said to myself, if this was the process that I was going to have to go through to rebuild my ability to be able to just function day to day, then this is what I've got to go through. It got to the point where I managed to get to the front door. And that probably took me close to 3 to 4 months of trying. You try taking one extra step every single 3 or 4 days and then be so exhausted that it took that much out of you that you'd need to rest for those 3 or 4 days to try again, knowing that you're going to be back there again. That episode, that process gets repeated so many times that you get familiar with what resilience feels like. You start to build on something that you know it's painful, yes, it's uncomfortable, yes, it makes you fear things, but does it end you? No, it doesn't. Does it keep you moving forwards? Do you actually progress? In the moment, you don't feel like you are. But every single time you attempt and you take one more step, you're one step further forwards. And this is the process that I've used in rebuilding my health, rebuilding a business that I've now helped thousands of people in, rebuilding a life that I never thought I was going to have. Every single part of this has been taken by take the step, recover where needed, and then go again. Take the step, recover where needed, and go again. And you literally rebuild this step by step, every single part of the way. But the thing that I don't want you to forget, and it's this: every single attempt that you make is going to feel uncomfortable. Every single time you try something different, something new, something a little bit further than your comfort zone, it's going to feel like it's more of a challenge than you could cope with. But I can guarantee you're strong enough to take this on because you decided to do this for yourself. The only way you're going to get to a point of rebuilding your health, your life, even the future that you possibly might not have even known that you were going to have, is if you take this step by step. You don't get anywhere jumping X amount of years down the line. At the point of recording this, I'm just over 5,000 days from that day of me choosing me on my 30th birthday. When I look back at those 5,000 days that I've put myself first, has every single one of those days been absolutely fantastic? No. Has every single one of those days resulted in an accumulation of all of the good things that I've done and I feel amazing all of the time? Absolutely not. I'd be lying to you if that was the case. But what it does do is it tells me that I'm prepared to keep putting myself first. 5,000 days, one after another, whether it's a good day or a bad day, 5,000 days, you keep putting yourself first and you keep moving forwards. And then when you get to look back and you go, actually, you know what? The life that I've built is probably a life that I wasn't actually supposed to have. And the way that you do this is you start to learn to understand what that recovery process looks like. You don't just keep pushing, hit burnout, tell yourself, well, I can't do this, this doesn't work. That's not how this works. Most people's perception of what results should look like, they don't understand that you have to install a baseline for you to change the person that you are. And that baseline is a bar height standard. It has to be raised every single time you do something. But that baseline is the thing that you fall back to. Under that baseline sits a toolbox of systems, protocols, actions, habits, all of these things that you do that allows you to keep working from this, that you can keep pushing to move forwards. But every single time you slip below this bar height, this standard of living, this standard quality that you should have for yourself, it's your duty to reinstall those values back in before you take that step forwards. They think they want to start where they currently are and they just want to see a result because they don't want to feel the discomfort that they're currently feeling no more. The thing that they don't do is they don't install what's actually needed as a new standard bar height for you to work from. They don't install new foundations. They just take some actions, hope that it changes, and then revert back to those actions that they were previously doing because they never actually installed any foundations to work from. This is where the process that I use has changed lives, changed careers. It's put people from career environment through to CEO, CFO, management. It's taken GPs burnt out, lack of identity, not knowing who they are. Their health is massively impacted from what's been going on, to literally living a life full of purpose, full of meaning, full of health. It's a future that they get to rewrite for themselves. This is something that works when you do the work properly and you reinstall those values into your foundations. You can rebuild any life that you could dream of. You can rebuild whatever that future is, so long as you rebuild those foundations first. And to do that, you need to do a few things. And in those few things, they're going to be coming in the next few videos that I'm going to be putting out. So the best thing that you can do right now is click the subscribe button, follow this channel, because I'm going to be giving you step by step all of the small nuances, all of the small foundations that's going to help you rebuild everything that you need to set a new bar height, a new bar standard for you to start moving forwards. And this is something that you're going to hear me say quite often. One change today will build a better tomorrow. So be built different.